good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending, of course, on when and where you are joining us from. This is the EPN podcast, a podcast that's been designed to demystify the sales profession and hopefully remove some of the stigma that is associated. Now, we're looking to do that by speaking to various salespeople, sales leaders who will share insight on their journey, share tips, tricks, and any advice as well throughout. Now, today we are joined by Scott Kingsbury, Country Manager of the UK at WINT, Water Intelligence. He also shares some fantastic content on socials surrounding go-to-market strategies, go-to-market implementation, as well as leadership coaching, training, and development. So if you don't follow him already, I would highly recommend that you go and do so. Scott, thank you very much for joining me today. Did you want to introduce yourself and just tell the audience a little bit more about you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously, thank you for having me. So, excited to have a chat. So, obviously, at the moment, lead the UK for WINT. I've been in sales. I was thinking about this actually for just over 17 years now, which is scary. Obviously, scoured and led teams of 25 plus at companies like Rightmove, Matterport, etc. So been in leadership like 7-8 years plus now. Obviously got SK Perform, which is, well, everyone calls it a side hustle, but it's more obviously my sales leadership coaching, training, development business. And that's more about giving back and helping sales leaders basically upskill and be the best version of themselves. So that's me.
Love that. Love to hear it. So a question that I ask everyone is, how did you get started in sales? What was it that piqued your interest? And what was the motivation behind pursuing a career in sales?
So first of all, it was money. So I actually started off at 16, leaving school as a sports coach, funny enough. And I was trying to teach 5 to 12-year-olds running about in a school field of how to play football and sports, which was like quite challenging. But I grew up, my dad was successful in sales. So I was really lucky to grow up in an environment where my dad was quite successful in sales. And ultimately then my drive was, I want to earn more money. Like, sports coach wasn't giving me enough money. I want to earn more money. I don't have any qualifications, so what does everyone do? I'll go and get into sales, right? So that's how it all started, effectively. That's 17 years later. It hasn't served me too far, and hopefully I've got many more years to go.
Indeed, it's crazy the impact of parents, whether it's conscious, subconscious. Myself, my dad was a great salesperson before moving into senior leadership. The influencing factor was definitely seeing deal values up on his whiteboard and figuring out how much commission he'd earn. So that helps. And that may have answered the next question that I'm going to ask you, which was, what was it that kept you in sales when those tough days inevitably did arrive?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's, once you get into it, it's kind of like I don't know anything else. And for me, it was always the driver behind my why and my purpose, right? I think that is the main driver of why I've stayed in sales. And that's changed throughout the years, right? Which it will. But initially, it was ultimately like, I wanted to get into sales leadership. Like, I always had these goals of what I wanted to do that kept me going in that field, right? So you start off in sales. I wanted to nail sales and be a really good performer. I then wanted to obviously become in sales leadership, so that keeps you going even more. I then wanted to earn a certain level of money, so that keeps you going more. And then I had 2 kids, and it's completely changed, right? Going, I need to keep the house afloat, and I want nice holidays for them, and I want them to have whatever they want. But I think for me, even in the tough times, in the challenges, it is driven by, what do I want? Why am I doing it? And what is my purpose? And that's consistently driven me. However, I have had challenges. When I first got into sales, I job hopped. I wasn't very good at it. I left before I got sacked. I went and tried to pursue something else and come back again, right? So I think that I've had those challenges at the same time. and then finally landed on my feet and then obviously worked through.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the moving goalposts help keep you going. Were there any sort of best practices that you picked up for being able to sort of face those challenges head on and overcome them?
Yeah, I think first of all, talk. Like, well, there's a stigma anyway, right? That we don't talk enough of outside of work, but even inside of work, right? I think the key for me is I've found a really good environment that was right for me. And I then had an environment there, it was safe space to talk, right? And talk about the challenges, talk about the things that you may feel, and then it normalizes it, because it's the same as everything else, right? Is everyone goes through that emotional roller coaster. That's normal with sales. Like, one morning you've booked 2 meetings and literally you're high, right? And you're eating lunch. You don't even eat lunch at your desk that day because you like smashed it. Then that afternoon you lose an opportunity and you go and have dinner at your desk because you feel down. Right? Like, it is literally like that. So I think when I look at it is definitely talking, definitely understanding mindset. Like, I didn't start to understand mindset and what that looked like until later on in my career. And I think if I knew it earlier on, I think it's definitely something that should be taught in school. Like, as bizarre as it sounds, I think that if I understood the mindset and the drivers of what I can control my mindset, I think that it would have helped me massively. And I think it's having strong champions around you, not champions in a business way, but champions as in around the business, around just your life in general. And those soft skills, resilience, all of that stuff. I think for me is if you've got all of that around you, I did eventually when I landed in an environment that was right for me, like it will help you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point surrounding that internal versus external networking, because while it is crucial to have those mentors, those guides, that support network outside of the business, equally, it's highly likely that there are 1, 2 various thought leaders within the org. Why not leverage those resources that you've got to really help advance your career, help understand some of the challenges that you may be facing? Because, I don't think there is such a thing as a new challenge. Something's been someone else, exactly. So it's really helpful. Now, on that point of sales being a roller coaster, which it definitely is, I think part of that is because we are the front line for any business. So as a result, we harshly feel any changes that take place in the market, any shifts in buyer behaviors. Now, in terms of staying adaptable throughout those challenging periods, have you got any things that you've picked up, anything that you try and instill within teams that you lead that help?
Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line is, right, if you look across the number of years, even when I've been in sales, right, we've had financial crash, COVID, like there's always something, right, with the news or something that's going on that's going to impact the marketplace, buyer behavior. And of course, right, sometimes it's really extreme, sometimes it's not so extreme. But the one thing that you can always do is just control what you can control, right? That's literally the only thing that you can do in any marketplace. Control what you can do, what you can control. And those things are, what can you do differently to everybody else, right? So I think that's always the question that I ask my team, like, what can we do to stand out from the crowd, right? So if you're looking at a time when it's tough and you know that everybody sends emails, that's a hot one, right, all the time, multiple emails, like, how can you be different? What does that look like? Dare to be bold a little bit, right? Control what you can control on your emotions, because again, like your tone, your confidence, all of that stuff will come off. And also control of how much pipeline you're generating, all of that stuff, right? I kind of sit there and I go, the marketplace course is going to dictate some of your factors. But again, like, you can only control what you can control. And then ultimately, if you feel like you're in a place where you're not going to win because there is a failure in the product market fit or anything like that, and you've exhausted all those options. Then the only other way to go is not be there, right? So I think for me, the biggest thing is just control what you can control. Like I can't get away from that, and that then leads to a number of different factors.
Yeah. You mentioned there around the how can you differentiate yourself as well. And I was watching a video just before we came on. I think it was Matt Redding, I want to say, and the finding was that today it takes 1,400 touch points to win one piece business. And that doesn't necessarily mean 1,400 within that one account, but if you've got a territory of 100 accounts, you need 1,400 across those. So the market is saturated. There's so much outbound that's taking place. Buyers are literally drowning in it. So what can you do that's going to cut through the noise? What can you do that's going to be different, that someone hasn't done yet, that might just win you that 7 seconds extra look at the email or look at the message? So yeah, really good point.
And it might not work, right? That's the other thing. That's okay. And I think, again, as you know, with what I talk about, it is so much on the environment as well. Are you in a team that feels safe, enabled, trusted to go and try something different? It might make a mistake, but you learn from it and then adapt it. Because again, like when you look at successful people, what we deem successful people, again, success can mean so many different things to different people. But for me, when I look at successful people, are people that have scaled companies or grown businesses, they haven't just sat there and played safe, right? They've sat there and controlled what they can control and been dared to be different, right? And that's kind of it's how you can win, right?
Yeah, I love that. Now, I want to focus on some of the challenges that you've faced throughout the career. You mentioned, moving goalposts, the impact that has on the types of challenges that you'd face. So if we start when you first came into sales, what were the challenges you faced moving from, perhaps, prior to entering sales development, and then sales development to a closing role?
Yeah. So, the one biggest thing in both all roles, which is a steep learning curve, I would say for everybody, is your targets and KPIs don't ever go away. Yeah. And they always reset. Right? So that's one of the biggest things, is the huge learning for everybody is you've got to be comfortable with the fact that you will have a target around you and a KPI around you, right? How that's managed is a very, very different thing. However, you will have a constant goal that you need to hit. And when you get to a certain period of time, that will then go back down to zero and you need to go and do it all over again. So I think that's I would say that is a challenge, right? That is a challenge for a lot of people as well, is because you're held with high account. You've got high accountability against you, no matter what role, like entry level, leadership, you are held accountable for getting a goal. I think then the next thing from that is you then can't take your eye off the ball. So a day of course, right? Like, let's be realistic. Every day you can't be at 110%. And if you are, then tell me so I can have a team of those people, right? Like, because same for me, let's be realistic. Every day you're not at 110%. There is going to be certain days where you don't feel like at 100%, whatever that means. It impacts your personal life outside that. But you can't have a consistent period of time in sales like that, because the work that you're doing now is going to impact you probably in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So it's actually quite easy, I would say, on the flip side of, if you're at target, a lot of people, I see it, if they lift their foot off the gas, and then in Q3, they're like, whoa, I'm in trouble here, and you can't make it up because it's all that work that you should have done there. So I think, again, in sales development and stuff, for me, the biggest challenge was you can't take your eye off the ball. It's always there. It's in front of you. And I think the last bit then for me which again, I think it's a key one when I see and talk to even people in my team, people that I've led, but also on LinkedIn, is I always wanted the next thing, which was a challenge in itself, because you've got to be super careful that you don't feel entitled to get the next thing and you don't take your eye off the ball in your current role. Yeah. And I see it all the time. I see it a lot of going, I just want the next thing. I just want the next thing. I should be promoted. I should be promoted. It's kind of like, for me, my one thing when promoting people, leading people is nail your day job consistently for a period of time. Just focus on that and everything else will follow. But that was a challenge. I know that because I've resonated with that and had it in my early days.
Yeah. It's all too easy to do. It is a real sort of fine line, being able to keep your eye on the ball, but additionally be able to lift your head. As you mentioned, I remember when I first started in sales, I was constantly refreshing the CRM, see if the AE had qualified the op. And especially when it comes to the end of the month, the end of the quarter. But it wipes clean, and then it's a fresh slate. So one of the things that I really try to focus on is that last week of the month, the quarter, try and think about what I can do so the next month, the next quarter, I can start on the right foot, and then rather than chasing my tail, it's thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And then moving from an individual contributor to leading a team, again, that's a whole new set of challenges. I know I'd like to move into leadership at one point, and I'm sure a number of listeners would as well. So really keen to hear your insight there.
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge I found is not everyone works like you do. So I got into leadership and had a team of people, and I'm like, whoa, we work really differently to how I work. And yeah, that's something that you've got to get comfortable with, that not everybody works the same as you. And I think then that flip of mindset to go, you're there to enable people, not to do it. And I think that's especially when we have a habit, wrongly or rightly, of promoting leaders into leadership, promoting good salespeople into leadership positions, giving them loads of support. And guess what they're used to doing? They're used to doing it, right? So guess what happens? They tell people how to do it. Those people either get it and do it, or they don't really understand. So it kind of, as you can imagine, you put all that in a ball and it doesn't end very well, right? So I think that the challenge is around that. And I think the other thing is your actions are always being watched. And what I mean by that is your team are always not looking at you consciously, but what is acceptable, right? Like, you are there and you've got to make an impression. You are there, like your behaviors, your actions are effectively determining the team environment. Yeah. So for me, again, it's my own personal way of how I lead teams is at the parties, right? I'm not getting hammered. I'm not going out there. Like, my actions and behaviors is what is setting the example across the teams. Do I mind if people get hammered or whatever? No, as long as their behaviors are right. But again, like all those little things. And I think ultimately is that the other thing into leadership is you are influencing people's careers. So like the biggest thing is flipping your mindset to all of this stuff, going, I'm here to enable people and get them to be the best version of themselves. I'm influencing this person's career, right? Like, generally, like when you start thinking in that way, going, this person's not livelihood, but career is, I can influence this, right? It can either go south or it can go north. And that, I think, is the biggest thing for me, the challenges of going into leadership, but also the great things. It's like amazing, the fact that, but you've got to have a key driver of wanting to do that. So like my post today, I get a bigger buzz out of one of my team, like booking a meeting from a cold call or signing a DocuSign than I ever did myself. Because actually, like, my real driver, right, and why I'm in leadership is actually just like helping people and getting them to be the best version of themselves. For me, it was kind of like a small buzz course, right? I liked it, but it was like, oh, I've done it. I'm want to go on to the next thing. So yeah, that's probably for me, especially in leadership, it's really understanding even for that person of what they want to do as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it seems to be a sort of common thread. We keep coming back to that driver, that motivation. Have you got any tips for those that maybe are struggling to find what that key purpose is?
Yeah, and I think it's okay not to know. That's probably the
Yeah.
thing, right? That is the ultimate first thing, is like, don't put pressure on yourself. Everybody always goes, oh, you need to know what you want to do, or blah, 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 right? I think how I found it is how you feel when you do something. And that's ultimately like, if you're helping somebody and you've got a buzz by it, then explore it, right? Understand it. If you nailed a sale and you just love, you want to earn as much money as possible and you want to have all of this stuff, then understand it. Understand the root cause of where this is coming from.
Yeah.
And that then for me comes from, and again, not until later on in my career around writing. I just sit there and explore it. Oh, I got a buzz from that. Let me write stuff down. Let me ask myself a few questions. And I think the biggest thing, and this is what I even say to my team, of you need to give yourself opportunity to think. And actually, if people aren't writing emails or writing on Teams or phoning customers, they actually think they're not doing any work. We're actually probably getting more out of self-reflecting after a day for an hour. An hour's like over-egging it, but you know what? Like, you're probably getting more out of it. Self-reflecting, going, what did I do well? What did I do well? What can I learn? Oh, what? And then you start to find, it all starts to make sense and piece together. If you just sit there and go, I need to write down what my purpose is, you're not going to find it, because you put pressure on yourself and you're not going to find it. So I think that probably anybody that's looking even at any career, but sales specifically or anything, is just start to explore those feelings you get. Start to go, because again, if you reflect on your day and you get a buzz out of like, oh, I learned this, that's probably starting to piece together and going, oh, I'm really excited about learning that. What is it about that I was excited about learning, if that makes sense? And you kind of then go, oh, that's what it is. So yeah, that's kind of where I'd say on that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I was certainly, and still am, prone to getting caught in the hamster wheel and not feeling that I'm productive enough. And I have to catch myself constantly. But one of the things that I try and think of is the Stephen Covey sharpen your saw metaphor, where there's two lumberjacks. They've got a competition on who can cut down the most trees. One of them's just going hammer and tong, stops every now and again to hear if his competitor is chopping, and he's not. And to his dismay, when he gets to the top of the hill or the finish line or whatever it was, his competitor beat him, because he took the time to reflect, to sharpen the saw, so the action is then more impactful.
100%. So if you constantly do the same, you're going to get the same output.
Yeah. Indeed. Love that. I'm conscious of time. Got the England game. Hoping for the build-up. This is going to go live on Wednesday, so we're happy that England got a great result, and so
we're qualified and it's coming out.
Indeed, positive mental attitude. Brilliant. Last couple of questions. I just want to focus on advice. Initially, sort of best piece of advice that you've received throughout your career.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't think I could put my finger on, like, here's the one bit of advice that I live and breathe. I think the biggest piece of advice that helped me, and that if somebody is looking to get into sales or where they're at today, is I was lucky enough to find environments where I got trained, I got coached, and I got developed. And I learned then multiple pieces of advice and everything, right? Like Rightmove, for example, was phenomenal. Like my career skyrocketed at Rightmove, but purely that was down to the training and the development that I got, right? So I think that for anybody is, if you're going to look for a new sales role, or you're in a current sales role and you're sitting there going, I want something different, or it doesn't fit, explore what does training, coaching, development look like in where you're at. or B, when you are exploring a role, really understand what support, what training, what development you're going to have. Because the bottom line is that's where you're going to learn your craft. And the biggest thing is sales is a skill, leadership is a skill. And of course, there is soft skills behind it where you might be further developed in your soft skills that certainly help you put yourself ahead of others. But if you treat it as a skill, which it is, you need training and development to do that skill. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice to anybody. Is it's certainly helped me, and it continues to help me now. And I do feel it because I took my foot off the gas and didn't get coaching for say 6 to 8 months, potentially 10 months actually thinking about it. And yeah, I missed it. And until I had it in my face again, obviously you don't realise it. So yeah, that's kind of the advice that I would say.
Love that. And then for anyone that's listening that might be considering a career in sales, any advice for those people?
Yeah. I'll start with the good things. So, because obviously I don't want to put people off it. It is generally so rewarding.
Yeah.
Generally so rewarding if you are sitting there wanting to solve actual people's problems. If you're sitting there going, I want to earn £1,000, yeah, it might be rewarding, but it's going to be a short-term goal. And then you're probably, your drivers, or you're probably going to sell not how, like, you're going to shove things down people's throats, etc. So it's highly, highly rewarding if you find the right fit. It's highly challenging, right? Which again is great for people if they want a challenge. Then on the flip side, then is like it's tough. Like generally, sales is tough, but you'll learn so much about yourself. And again, the toughness comes from the emotional roller coaster, managing emotions, all that stuff, right? You come into days, you've got butterflies in your stomach when you've got a new client meeting. You're meeting people you've never met before, right? Like if I said to somebody at school that might be leaving school out of uni or even changing their careers at 35 years of age and saying, cool, like I'm going to get you to meet 10 new people every week in the street, they wouldn't do it, right? But that's what you're doing. Also, it's just you're doing it either over Teams or you're doing it face to face in an office. You're going to get those butterflies. You're going to get those anxious feelings. You're going to have real highs. You're going to have real lows. But again, you learn so much. So I think that's probably the one thing for anybody is that's where I get to with it.
Scott, that has been a fantastic session. If anyone does want to reach out, I guess LinkedIn is the best place for it.
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best place. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, reach out. Again, anybody out there, if you want to chat, like you're thinking about getting into sales or you're in sales already, I'm always open to chat. My inbox is open. So yeah, chat.
Good stuff. Love that. And prediction for the result tonight?
Well, I think we'll scrape another 1-0.
Yeah.
We'll go out in the semi-finals again.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to go for 2-1.
Oh.
So,
but Jude Bellingham will be a hero after this tournament. So that's the bottom line.
Indeed. Love that. Scott, thank you so much for joining me. Really enjoyed that. And to everyone listening, until next time.